In 1997, just 1 year after the release of Scream, we got a sequel, Scream 2, directed once again by Wes Craven and written once again by Kevin Williamson. The core cast of the original film, the four main actors that were left over at the end of that one, all return here as well. So this really does feel like a genuine, bona fide sequel, which is continuing the story rather than something that has just been kind of, added on for the sake of making a few bucks. Not that capitalism didn't have its part to play, I'm sure. We pick up 2 years after the events of the first film, and another killer or killers starts to stalk the life of Sidney Prescott once again, killing off people that are closely associated with her. The question is, who is it, or who are they? We get a lot of new people in Sidney's life, and it could be any one of them. When I first saw this way back in '97, I had an absolute blast with it. I loved it. I was such a huge fan of the first one. For anyone who's seen my review of the first one, you'll know just how much of a fan I was of that. So yeah, I went into this as an absolute fanboy, really wanted to see this sequel. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Unfortunately, it's got to be said, this one hasn't aged quite as well as that first film. The more I watch this one, and again, as with the first one, it has been an awful long time since I'd seen this until watching it for this review. But even so, repeat viewings don't quite fare as well with this one, I feel. It's just not quite on the same level from a writing standpoint, and that could have something to do with the fact that, they put this thing into production straight after the first one. Like, literally, they wrote, produced, directed, did all that stuff within the space of a year, and I feel like maybe, just maybe, they should have taken 2 to give a few more goes over the script and really nail it. And I think, unfortunately, they didn't do that. And the film does suffer a little bit. But anyway, it is still entertaining, I must say. But let's get into it. The opening sequence, again, comparing it to the first one, that Drew Barrymore sequence in the first one was such a huge kind of moment. You want to kind of hit people hard with that opening again. And I don't think this quite has the same kind of impact. Well, it just doesn't. We get these two characters played by Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett. Neither one of those were as big a star as Drew Barrymore was back when when this came out. So it doesn't have that kind of impact because you see it coming. You kind of expecting it in a way. The whole scene is just not handled as well. Like it takes place in this cinema, so Pinkett gets offed during a screening of Stab, which is a movie based on the events of the first film, which is actually quite funny. And we see some scenes from Stab throughout the film that, amuse me no end. But again, the lighting in that cinema is ridiculous. And the whole showing itself. Now, I've never been to a screening personally where it's been that lively. I might get a few chavs in the back talking too loudly and it will really annoy me, but this is like mutual participation of everyone in the screen. They're all throwing popcorn, they're all shouting, they're all wearing masks. The screen's lit up like a Christmas tree. Seriously, it's not dark at all. You can see everyone. So that right off the bat kind of put me off. How no one sees this happening to Pinkett is just beyond me. It's some pretty good judgment on the part of the killers to be able to take Omar Epps out, just to assume that he's got his face pressed up. Again, not only to assume that, all they've got to go on is the feet underneath the stalls, but they assume he's got his face pressed up and they get the exact spot where they need to stab him in the cheek. Again, it's too many little things like that where it's all coincidental. The killers in this are just a little bit too good, shall we say. The best thing about the film really is having those 4 core cast members back. And it kind of makes me glad that Williamson and Craven allowed for so many to survive that first film, because usually you don't, do you? Like with with slasher franchises, you get a final girl, and they're the ones who kind of carry over into the next film. So the fact that you get 4 characters that all carry over, it's a good thing, because they come with this relationship that we've already kind of witnessed in the previous film. So that's our way in, kind of thing. We don't need to necessarily build relationships with all these new characters, because we've got such a strong core from the original film, and they're characters that we love. Well, I loved anyway. I really like these characters, particularly Randy and Dewey. Randy is a bit cooler, I think, in this film. I think because he's found his place. He's at university now, college, and he's studying film, which basically means he's in his element. He's practically God here. The stuff that he spouted from his mouth in the first film that kind of just made him a geek, here in this setting, it makes him cool. It makes him kind of king of the class in many ways. So again, that's something I can kind of relate to from my school days. Like I said, in the first film, I related most to Randy, and again, that applies here. When I went from school where I didn't fit in, and then I went to college where I kind of did, where my film talk actually made sense to people. Like I say, I really relate to the character, which is why it is quite a blow when he cops it. Yeah, his death scene, when I originally watched this film, it was always the hardest one for me to watch. Also getting Cotton Weary much more fleshed out. We saw a glimpse of Liev Schreiber as Cotton Weary in the first film, so I do like that. One, it's a good idea that they actually cast someone for that little snippet who can actually act, who, when given a much meatier role, is going to deliver. And I like Liev Schreiber here. I like him as an actor anyway, but the picture that was painted of him in the first film as an innocent man, here, he doesn't look so innocent. He is basically a bit of a scumbag. Gail Weathers was right to pursue the line of inquiry that she did. He was innocent in regards to killing Sydney's mother. He didn't do it, but that doesn't mean he isn't a scumbag. For one, he was having an affair with a married woman, which kind of tells you all you need to know to begin with. So the fact that they play up on that here, in turn, kind of make him a suspect. I like that angle. It's some clever work there by Williamson, and again, like I say, I do like that performance by Liev Schreiber. 2 performances I'm not so keen on, must be said, are the killers. So we get Billy's mum coming back, kind of posing as this reporter, and then we get this other film student, Mickey, who is basically just some psychopath that she found online. My problem with these guys is they seriously over-egg it. They overact. Like in the first film with Stu and Billy, I always believed those two. Like, even when they gave the reveal, they never changed who they were as characters. You look back on the film and you realise they were those guys all the way through that film. It's just that no one noticed. They fit into society in that respect. Whereas these guys, it's like a switch gets turned. So, they're perfectly fine throughout the film. Obviously, when you watch it on the second watch, you can see certain things there that, obviously allude to the fact that they are the killers. But when we find out in the film that they are the killers, like I say, performance-wise, it's like this switch gets flipped, and Timothy Olyphant suddenly, I don't know, he just does that psycho thing. It's like, oh, now I've got to play the psycho and go totally nuts. And it's too much. And it puts me off. It takes me out of the scene again. It's like, dial it down a bit, dude. And Laurie Metcalf is kind of the same. So she plays this character called Debbie Salt, who actually turns out to be Billy Loomis's mother. And I think for most of this film, she really plays it to the hilt, a little bit over the top. And I just think that the way to have gone about this character, and this is probably down to the writing and the direction as well, I think there is some slight mishandling on all quarters here, I think the best way to have played it was to just be really straight with her. You know, at the end of the day, she's a mother, lost a son. Admittedly, she was a very bad mother. She abandoned her son, and you know, Sidney calls that out at the end, which one kind of makes me not really buy into her motivations so much as a character. But I think because she's so over the top, that loses me even more. Whereas if they'd have just played it straight, like, just, you know, real matter of fact about it, just bring that performance down, give her reasons. Yeah, you know what, I did leave my son, I left my family, but that was because, you know, of your mother, like, stealing my husband. Just reason it out. But instead she goes this wild-eyed crazy person that feels like, I don't know, is from a different franchise. Again, because when you go back to that first film and you see the reveal at the end with Stu and Billy, they don't change who they are. Their personalities remain the same. So yeah, here I think the reveal is seriously mishandled. So they're my main gripes, really. But other than that, I again, like I say, I love those core characters, and I think we get some great set pieces as well. Some nice kind of guest appearances, I guess you'd call them, by the likes of Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was pretty big at the time, what with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It always cracks me up though, seeing that guy's head pop up just on the side of the screen when she gets thrown off the balcony. Bit of a faux pas there, kind of bizarre that one never got caught, to be honest, before the film went out, but hey ho. Nice little side characters. I do think some of them, again, they play up to that stereotype you see in college movies just a little bit too much, like the cheerleader types, the you know, the sorority house types who are just, yeah, I feel like they're very much Dawson's Creek-esque. I think too much of Dawson's Creek style of writing from Kevin Williamson creeps in here. Obviously he wrote that series, so that's why, but I felt like that kind of aspect was dialed down a bit in the first film. Some great set pieces, most notably the one in the police car, which again, on repeat viewings, has lost some of its impact, but I do remember when I first saw this being so tense. Although again, it's that flip side, it's a great setup, but as soon as Sidney gets out of that car with her friend, before they run, again, it's that stupidity thing, like grab the mask, pull it off, you can do it, it's right there. It's what I'd do, I'm sure it's what anyone would do. Or even, for that matter, grab his knife and stab him, kill him. And I say that knowing full well that Sidney has already killed two of these guys. You know, she dropped a TV on one of their heads and then shot the other one in the head at the end. So I'm sure grabbing the knife for this guy who's literally just tried to kill them and doing the same wouldn't be that much of a problem for her at this point. Some of the characters in this are pretty stupid, actually. Again, going back to the Sarah Michelle Gellar character, the way she goes back into the house just so that she can hear the phone. Or, you know, when the killer on the phone says, you know, better put that alarm on. Literally, her friend has just gone out through the door. Sod putting the alarm on. Drop the phone, open the door, go with your friend. It's just some of the stupid decisions that the characters make like that just annoy me a bit. I felt like in the first film things were thought out a lot more. Characters didn't seem this stupid. But great set pieces, great chemistry between Courtney Cox and David Arquette. I really like some of the scenes between them and their characters. I like where we find them because obviously, you know, they were growing quite close together towards the end of the first Scream, but because of the well, yeah, the opportunities that arose from the story at the end of that, Gail obviously chose career first, and we see the ramifications of that. And she makes up for that at the end of this film when she gets the same opportunity to go with the story or ride with Dewey in the ambulance. And she makes her choice. She goes with Dewey, and I like that. It's a nice moment. It shows that she does really care about him. So finally, Sidney, once again, really kicking ass. I like her here just as much as I did in the first film. I like that she's a fighter. You know, like a few stupid choices aside, she's not afraid to get stuck in. You know, she does a fair share of running, but she also does her fair share of fighting back when the opportunity arises. Yeah, a really good, strong final girl, even though she technically isn't the only final girl. She's one of the final girls. But yeah, she's definitely a great star of this franchise, the person that we're kind of following mostly. And yeah, a character that I look forward to seeing again in the sequels. Obviously, I know what's going to happen in those sequels. I've seen them before, but as with the first two films, I look forward to revisiting them. Must be said. One final thing I will say as well is just the music in this. I didn't like the music as much in this one as I did the first one either. Some of the song choices, some of that late 90s rock really doesn't do it for me. Kind of, yeah, it's not dated well, the musical choices. Although there is one piece of music that kind of pops up throughout that I'm pretty sure it's Hans Zimmer's score for Broken Arrow, of all films, which I think was like 2 years before this film. But yeah, how bizarre that music just kind of pops up. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure the music for Broken Arrow is used in this film. I like the use of it. It's a nice piece of music, but it's just strange that they do that they take a piece of score that was done for one film and use it for this one. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on Scream 2. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I know I ragged on it quite a bit, but I do still really enjoy it, and it's mostly because of those characters, those core characters. But what about you? What do you think of Scream 2, and where do you think it sits amongst this series of films? How would you rank it? Yeah, comment below and let me know your thoughts, and until next time, cracking.